Have you ever wondered how someone can disappear in one of the busiest cities in America without anyone truly understanding what happened? Not in the middle of the wilderness, not during a storm, but in Los Angeles. Surrounded by airports, highways, cameras, hotels, and millions of people. And somehow, 29-year-old Hannah Kobayashi still vanished almost without a trace. What made the case even stranger were the messages she sent before disappearing. Messages that sounded cryptic, paranoid, almost like she was trying to tell someone she was in trouble. At first, her family feared she had been abducted. Then, investigators uncovered surveillance footage that completely changed the timeline. And just when the mystery already seemed impossible to understand, another tragedy struck the family. Because while searching for Hannah in Los Angeles, her father suddenly died, leaving behind even more questions. Questions that people online still debate to this day. Was Hannah scared and running from something? Was she manipulated? Or did she disappear by choice? This is the mysterious disappearance of Hannah Kobayashi. In November of 2024, Hannah Kobayashi was supposed to be traveling from Hawaii to New York City. The trip should have been simple. A connecting flight through Los Angeles International Airport, then onward to New York. But Hannah never boarded her connecting flight. At first, that alone didn't immediately create panic. Flights get missed all the time. Travelers change plans unexpectedly. People get delayed. But then the messages started coming. Texts sent to family members sounded strange and deeply concerning. One message reportedly suggested she had lost her money and identification. Another implied she was scared. Then came the message that terrified her loved ones the most, one that seemed to suggest Hannah felt she couldn't trust the people around her. Suddenly, this no longer looked like a missed flight. It looked like a crisis. Her family immediately began trying to contact her, but the responses became inconsistent and confusing. At some moments, Hannah sounded coherent. At other times, she seemed distressed and disconnected. Then communication stopped completely. That's when panic truly began. Her loved ones traveled to Los Angeles to search for her themselves. They posted flyers across the city, organized search groups, and flooded social media with her photos. The story exploded online. TikTok creators, Reddit communities, and amateur investigators became obsessed with the case almost overnight. Because the deeper people looked, the stranger everything became. Los Angeles police began reviewing surveillance footage from around the airport and nearby transit areas. What they discovered complicated the narrative immediately. Hannah did not appear physically restrained or visibly threatened. In surveillance clips, she appeared calm. At one point, cameras captured her leaving the airport area with another individual. The footage fueled endless online speculation. Who was the person with her? Did Hannah know them? Was she being manipulated or willingly leaving? Investigators later uncovered additional footage showing Hannah at different locations around Los Angeles after missing her flight. That detail shocked many people following the case online. Because if she had opportunities to seek help, why didn't she? Some investigators began exploring whether Hannah may have been experiencing emotional distress or a mental health crisis. Others believed she intentionally disappeared. But her family strongly pushed back against that idea. One family member later said, Hannah would never just abandon everyone who loves her. Something happened. As public attention intensified, social media transformed the case into a maze of theories. Some believed Hannah had fallen victim to trafficking. Others suggested manipulation or coercive control by someone she met during travel. And then there were those who believed she intentionally vanished to start over. The internet became divided. Every blurry image, every possible sighting, every social media post was analyzed like evidence in a murder investigation. But despite all the theories, investigators still lacked one critical thing: proof. Then the case took an even darker turn. While searching for Hannah in Los Angeles, her father, Ryan Kobayashi, was found dead near LAX. The news devastated the family and shocked the public following the story. Authorities later ruled his death a suicide. But emotionally, it changed the entire atmosphere surrounding the case. A missing daughter, a grieving father, And now another tragedy layered on top of an already painful mystery. People online became even more emotionally invested. Some questioned whether the stress of the search had become unbearable for him. Others believed the entire situation surrounding Hannah's disappearance was far more complicated than anyone realized. Meanwhile, investigators continued trying to establish Hannah's exact movements. Surveillance footage suggested she moved through multiple areas of Los Angeles voluntarily. That detail became central to the investigation because it raised a difficult possibility. What if Hannah didn't want to be found? For families of missing persons, that question can feel almost impossible to accept, especially when earlier messages sounded frightened and alarming. One investigator later explained that adults legally have the right to disappear voluntarily if they choose to. But emotionally, that explanation rarely satisfies families searching for answers. And in Hannah's case, the emotional confusion only kept growing. As weeks passed, authorities eventually stated there was no evidence suggesting Hannah had been abducted or forcibly harmed. Investigators indicated she appeared to be traveling on her own. That announcement created major backlash online. Many people felt the family's concerns had been dismissed too quickly. Others argued the public had become consumed by theories without evidence. But the case still refused to feel simple. Because even if Hannah had left voluntarily, the messages she sent beforehand remained deeply unsettling. Why did she sound frightened? Why did communication suddenly stop? And why did someone who appeared active and social suddenly vanish from the lives of everyone who loved her? Eventually, reports surfaced suggesting Hannah may have crossed into Mexico voluntarily. Authorities stated there was evidence supporting that possibility. But for many people following the story, the mystery didn't disappear. It only changed shape. Some viewed the case as a tragic example of mental health struggles unfolding publicly. Others believed there were still missing pieces investigators had not revealed. And online communities continued debating every detail long after media coverage slowed down. Because emotionally, people struggle with uncertainty more than almost anything else, especially when someone's final messages sound like cries for help. One of Hannah's friends later said, "The hardest part is not knowing whether she was scared or whether she wanted space. We just don't know." Even now, Hannah Kobayashi's disappearance continues generating debate online. Not because investigators declared it a kidnapping, not because there's evidence of murder, but because so many emotional questions remain unresolved. What caused her sudden behavioral shift? Why were her messages so alarming? Was she experiencing fear, confusion, manipulation, or something else entirely? And perhaps the biggest question of all, if Hannah truly chose to disappear, why did it feel so much like she was asking for help before she vanished? Cases like this stay with people because they force us into uncomfortable territory where truth, perception, and emotion all collide. Not every mystery ends with an arrest. Sometimes the hardest mysteries are the ones where nobody can fully agree on what really happened. And maybe that's why people still can't stop talking about Hannah Kobayashi. Because somewhere between those final text messages, the airport surveillance footage, and the silence that followed, there's still a story nobody completely understands. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more real true crime stories surrounded by mystery, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We cover disturbing disappearances, unsolved investigations, and cases that continue raising difficult questions long after the headlines fade. And now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe Hannah Kobayashi was truly in danger? Or do you think she disappeared voluntarily? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because sometimes the smallest detail can completely change how a case is understood. And if this story stayed with you, consider liking the video. It helps more people discover cases like this and keeps these conversations alive. Until next time, stay curious and stay aware.